Hello and welcome to your chapter's virtual event. It's the virtual meetings. Let's make them engaging. We're going to wait just another moment or two to the top of the hour when we will get started. But as long as you're already in, go ahead in the chat, warm your fingers up here a little bit, and answer the question, what's your go-to morning drink? So are you a coffee drinker and tea drinker? Maybe it's a soda. I worked for a manager in a retail store, and he drank a huge 16-ouncer of Diet Coke every morning. Perhaps it's a smoothie. So if it is a smoothie, I want to know what flavor you've got this morning. If it's coffee, tell us, cream or sugar? Lemon in the tea. So go ahead, get your fingers going and get them warmed up, because in order for us to have engaging meetings, we've got to all be involved and engaged. Awesome. So keep going right there, guys. I see some great things coming in. There's quite a few smoothies. Awesome. And there's a soda and some vitamin water. Very cool. All right. I am a tea drinker. Love my awake tea, but I've really gotten into some ginger varieties as the day goes on. So just checking the time here, and I see that we are at the top of the hour. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And as I said, welcome again to your PRSA chapter event, virtual meetings. Let's make them engaging. Now, what brings us here today is that most predictions put the use of, and quite frankly the reliance on, digital meetings as just continuing to rapidly grow. Now, what I believe is the good news is that all these skills that we're rushing around to be able to, as we say, to be able to work in this environment are skills that actually we're going to use well into the future. I believe that once you've kind of opened the gate here, we're going to realize that you can do an awful lot of work, be very productive, and get together with people over vast distances by going ahead and having virtual meetings that make a difference. So I think all we have to do is kind of get started on what those skills are so that we can be as effective as possible. So this is Peggy Hoffman talking. I am the administrator for the PRSA Maryland chapter, so I'm all the way on the other coast. And so even though it's 9 a.m. your time, I'm still drinking my tea here at almost the lunch hour here. Not only am I administrator for PRSA Maryland, but I'm part of a company, of virtual AMC, and we manage 3 small organizations and then do lots of conversations and talking around using technology to really embolden, maybe is the right word. I'd like to say leverage our volunteer efforts in all of our membership-based organizations. So happy to be reaching across the country here to be with you today. So that's a little bit about me. I want to learn a little bit about you, and so I am going to go ahead and launch a couple of polls. Now, the first one I want to get a sense from you guys is what's your go-to video app? So what's your go-to video app? Is it a Skype? Maybe it's Zoom. Facebook Messenger, anyone? WhatsApp? Google Docs, I should say, or Hangouts? Marco Polo? Yes. I don't use that, but apparently it is one that is quite popular. FaceTime, House Party, maybe it's something else. If it's something else, go ahead and put that in the poll. Put that in your chat so we can see that. So I'm letting some folks go ahead and vote here. I'm going to give you a few more seconds. It is multiple choice, so if you've got a couple that you're interested in, go ahead and use those. As I'm watching this come in, I see that Zoom is quite popular, followed by Facebook Messenger. We've also got some folks using FaceTime. One person has mentioned House Party. Good, I'm glad to see that. All right, I'm going to end the polling here. And what I want to do is ask you a second question. I want to ask you, because we are here actually at this particular technology we're using is Zoom, I'd love to find out about Do you use Zoom? So go ahead, fill in, do you use Zoom? So are you using it personally? Are you using it for business? Maybe you are sort of familiar with it. Maybe you've been on a Zoom call before, but you really don't know how to get around perhaps, or maybe you're just getting started. So go ahead and tell me what best describes you. You know, I know with the free app, there's lots of people that are using Zoom personally, and I know that I had a couple people in a webinar just last week who it was their first time on. So I'm taking a look at things are coming in. We do have a couple of newbies. Welcome, and we're going to walk you through some things, so don't worry. Got a bunch of people who are used it personally, but so we've got a lot of, I'd say about more than half of you know a little bit more and been around Zoom. So we're using Zoom because it is the platform that I am most familiar with and have been using for a long time, long before it got uber popular, as they say. Most of the things we're going to talk about here, though, I want to make sure you understand, most of the things we're going to talk about would apply to any and all virtual or digital meetings. So, you know, let yourself take notes, even though we are on the Zoom platform. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So let me give you a little bit of a tour so you sort of know what the Zoom platform is. We're going to be using chat now. Many of you have already used it. Yay. We're going to continue to use it. And so I just want to make sure that if you haven't used it before, that you're real familiar with it. You'll see the icon at the bottom of your screen. You're going to click on that to chat. Look, a best practice is you will see an opportunity with a little down arrow to pick panelists or hosts, to pick an individual, or to say panelists and attendees. I want you to go with us all because that way we can all see it. If you send it just to me, well, you know, it's a secret, and that's fine if you'd like to do that. But go ahead and send it to all of us. Now, if you need a question answer or something immediate, you can raise your hand. Now, the moderator will be notified that you've raised your hand. As is not unusual, folks will raise their hand and realize, I didn't mean to do that, or, oh, I don't want to talk now. Don't worry about it. Click it again. Take your hand down. It's easy as being in a classroom. So if you want to ask a question, please feel free to click on the Q&A. Now that's going to allow you, it's going to bring up the webinar controls, and don't worry, you can send this anonymously. Bashful folks on the ring, and then you will simply type in your question. So let me show you what that looks like. So the Q&A will open up. You will ask a question, maybe, where can I get toilet paper? You hit send. Now, say you're in the Q&A and you see it, where can I get toilet paper? You actually can like it to say, hey, I like that question too. Let's please get an answer to it. Or you can comment. Maybe you've got an answer. So hit send, and it's on its way. So what I like to do is just a real quick recap: chat, comments, questions, share ideas. Raise your hand to speak. Lower it again if you need to. Use the Q&A to ask questions, but also to view them and comment on those questions. I am not the only expert. I like to think that we're all experts here, and the Q&As or the questions in the chat can equally be answered by any and all of us. So what I'd like to do now is ask one more poll so that we can sort of gear some of the conversation we're going to have today. And I would like very much for you guys to tell me what type of meeting you're planning to do on a digital space. So is it a team meeting for work? Maybe it's a volunteer meeting for work. Maybe it's team building, so you're just trying to get some folks together to be able to create connections. Perhaps it is social. I was chatting with a friend yesterday, and she is doing wine tasting. There is a wine coach. She pulls them together. She gives you the wine list in advance, tells you some food to pair with it, and then she leads an hour wine tasting. Maybe it's for training, educating, informing, such as this particular webinar, or maybe it's just a town hall. You just need to get input into an idea, a concept, a problem, a challenge. All right, let's see. I'm seeing all over the boards, but I am seeing quite a bit of team meetings. and some social. That is very cool. All righty. So, knowing that, I think that we're going to be right on target for the kinds of conversation that we're going to have today, because most of these will apply to multiple types of meetings. What we're going to do in our balance of the time we have together is we're going to talk about 7 tips for engaging attendees virtually. They look like this. We're going to start with talking about setting up for success. How do you make sure the best that you can, remembering that we're always testing and piloting stuff, for a successful meeting? Large part of that is making sure you get the timing right, which of course connects to number 3, which is all about building in breaks. Now 4 is about lights, camera, action. It's putting a little bit of fun into the video. The power of chat is basically how we're going to engage folks, as is breaking the ice and a dash of fun. Now, I could wipe all of these and go right to a dash of fun, and I think that we would have everything we need ultimately to create meetings that are a little bit more effective. But I think we should start at the top with success. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, essentially, I'm talking about show them the way. Now, you'll notice the beginning of this, I went through a couple of slides. I inserted those slides specifically to make sure that all those that are there, that are coming in, are equally familiar. We do this whole thing where we assume everybody's ready for a virtual or digital meeting, and that's just not the case. So part of what we have to do is make sure that we take those extra steps. Now, I'm not saying do this every time, but at least get a show of hands, find out if you need to, and make sure that people feel comfortable, right? So the second part about this, setting up for success, is having a team whenever you're doing a digital meeting. Now, I'm super excited to show you the team that I have. I've got my business partner, Peter Houstel, helping with the technology and a little bit of moderation. And then I have your very own president, Charlotte Beatty, who is here for giving us the support in the chat room and the questions. So having a team really allowed you to spread the work. Now, one of the cool things is, let's say it's a volunteer meeting you're running. Go ahead, ask anybody who really understands the technology, hey, will you be the technology moderator? And then ask a couple of a very easy job is to ask some folks to be able to make sure that they're monitoring the chat. So you can also bring in additional volunteers. The third and final thing I really want to emphasize is the concept of the dry run. When you're pulling some stuff together, you're trying some new technology, go ahead and play with it. So my business partner and I got together with a peer and we were testing using virtual whiteboards in a Zoom meeting. We did another thing with a group of people. We were testing using the Zoom breakout rooms. The dry runs just build your confidence. So let's go to number 2, which is it's all about the timing. Now, here's the deal. Everybody's time is crunched, super crunched right now. But honoring the start time and the stop time are going to be incredible wins for you as a moderator or facilitator for a meeting. Now, I understand that some people will have trouble connecting, they might not get in on time, but don't wait for everybody to get there, because you only have a fixed amount of time, and it's important that the people that got there have their time equally honored. So one of the things that you might do is start the top of the hour, for example, if it's a team meeting, with your icebreaker that allows you to begin to get some conversation so the latecomers can drop back in again. Stopping on time is critical. It's not going to be unusual for us to have technical issues or things that get in the way. That doesn't mean you extend the meeting. It means you say, hey, listen, we're not going to get everything done. We're going to pick up on this in our next meeting. But by stopping on time, you honor the fact that folks have other things up against. We're all kind of like sandwiching stuff in. And if for no other reason, then we can only take so much time in front of a computer screen before we have to get up and move. So please make sure that you honor those stopping and starting on time. And all of that, I'd like you to think about keeping it focused and brief. So I love Rick Mirar. He's the author of Beyond the Wall of Resistance and Why Don't You Want What I Want? And it's a fun read, but he advises that it's really critical, whether it's a in-person or a digital meeting, but like 100%, 100 times more important when it's a digital meeting, that you stop trying to squeeze multiple things into a single meeting. He talks about keeping the focus on one or two items. And further, he talks about keeping that focus kind of narrowed down to, say, 30 minutes. His rule of thumb is really 30 minutes for a segment of the meeting. I think that whether it's a 30 minutes or 35 minutes or 25 minutes, the most important thing is to follow our number 3, which is to build in breaks. Remember, if you're doing a face-to-face meeting, you all will go, okay, bathroom break. It's not unusual, right? Or you'll say, hey, I got to go do a refresh. Anybody want some? Or we'll say to folks, hey, let's just take a brain break. Let's sit back and relax, right? So really, it's imperative that we don't lose that habit. We don't lose that quote-unquote best practice in meetings just because we're virtual. I love this rule to follow, which is for every 50 minutes of learning, a 10-minute break. Now, if you're only doing an hour webinar like we're doing here, we're not going to do a 10-minute break. But the idea here is, particularly if it's a longer meeting, you have to build in those breaks. I really think that one of the most valuable gifts we can give folks if we want them to stay engaged in this new environment is to help them stay engaged by giving them that white space or that breaks. So I was on a 3-hour training webinar a couple weeks ago. What I loved was she not only did hey, everybody take a bathroom break, and we got up and moved, and then we took a longer break as part of it, but she also gave us mind breaks. So a couple of times during it, she would say, okay, here's a question. She put the question on the slide. She goes, so pull out a piece of paper, scribble a little bit, take a quiet moment. She said, I'm going to mute everybody's phones for 3 minutes. So she gave us some really cool white space. So guys, build in those breaks. When you do, that's like giving gifts to your attendees. It opens them up for learning if it's a learning webinar. It opens them up for good thinking if you're in a tough discussion, and it allows the creativity to bounce around a little bit. So build in breaks. So let's talk about lights, camera, action. Now, I've got a pretty basic background behind, but as you'll notice, I do have my curtain closed, so I'm not getting the backlighting problem that so many folks get. I do have a light that you can't see right now, which is giving a little bit more forward light for me. Both of those are really easy. I mean, the important thing is don't have a bright window behind you, and don't be sitting in a dark space. So that's the easy part. But you can also change this background, right? And you can create a little bit more excitement in the video. So let me give you a couple of examples. And I am going to share with you a link, and you can go see the full video on adding a virtual background. The other thing I want to talk about related to this is to set a theme. So one of the cool virtual background meetings that I was in, we've done this a couple of different ways. So one of the ways was everybody that came to this meeting was supposed to wear a crown. It was Crown Day. So some folks did a virtual background for the crown. Some people wore a crown and when you saw the screen grab of these, I think there was 12 people on it and all these wonderful crowns. So set a theme. Another peer of my friend of mine ran a meeting in which it was wear your favorite sports shirt. So we're all working from home, right? So we're not all dressing up, right? We're putting on nice casual things. We'll allow people to express some of their personality around that. Another time it was Hat Day, and you had to wear a funny hat. Now we've been talking about there needs to be a mask day where we all wear a mask and show the masks that we've made. But have that theme because it allows us to kind of take the image of the video, if it's a meeting, and just have some fun with it. The other cool thing is, and I'm going to go ahead and do this right now because I have my video up. you can go to your video, go to your name. You can right-click on your name, and you can rename it. And I'm going to rename it to Superwoman. Whoops. There we go. So one of the cool things to do is start a team meeting and say, hey, everybody, go ahead and put up your favorite superhero or give yourself a brand new superhero. A really cool thing, it's kind of cool, funny thing. So I was on a Zoom call with my family for Easter. And I noticed that my one son was constantly changing his name, but he was doing like 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. And I'm going like, what is this? And I finally, with his help, we realized that every time someone said a joke, he was looking at the 5 pictures and he was rating the joke based on how many of us laughed. So if all of us laughed, it was a 5 out of 5. If only 3 of us laughed, it was a 3 out of 5. So you can have that kind of play, right, by changing the name. So there's a couple of different ways that we can talk about where you can add lights, camera, and action that makes a difference. So finally, I want to mention that part of what makes virtual work is when you actually are showing people, not just slides. And you'll notice I have been on video this entire time. And the reason why I'm on this, whether it's a webinar or it's a meeting, is because I want you to know that actually I'm here with you. I can't see you in a webinar, but I feel like if you can see me, we're still making that kind of human connection. So here's what I promised to show you. Now you can go on, you can see at the bottom of your screen, it's Halfinity. It's a YouTube channel. And you can see they have a lot of subscribers, and there's a lot of subscribers because they do some really cool things about Zoom. In this particular one, he is showing us how we can go ahead and create a virtual background, right? So I've circled here. It's the you're going to do your click arrow on the video. You're going to choose a virtual background. It's going to bring you to this screen. Now, Zoom has some virtual backgrounds, right? In addition to which you can upload ones by adding an image. So this just gives you an opportunity to put some more excitement behind you and allow some of the distractions that are behind you, right, to allow some of those distractions to fade away. Now, if you're using Microsoft Teams or Skype, there's a couple of other ones, there is a setting to blur your background. So another way of keeping the distractions or allowing people to feel more comfortable about being on video is to go ahead and encourage people to use those kinds of things. So do a virtual background, just have some fun with the naming, blur the background, lots of different options. What we're trying to do here, guys, is to make this meeting, allow the folks to personalize their experience and allow there to be just a little bit more energy because we're not all sitting in the room together. Now, there's another way to do energy, and that's with our tip number 5, which is let's chat. Now, one of the most important things is if we're going to go to the trouble of doing a meeting or go to the trouble of doing a webinar, it's really, really critical that we engage people throughout the whole process. So what I'd like to suggest is that if we think about this from a webinar perspective, it deepens the learning. And so I'm going to actually pause for just a moment. I'd like you to chat in the box right now. We've gone through 4, right? We've got a couple of more to go. Of the 4 that we've already seen, so setting up for success, it's all in the timing, build-in breaks, lights, camera, action. What's your takeaway so far? What's the one takeaway that you've got? If you've got more than one, go ahead, put more than one in. But let's put some chat there, and let's talk a little bit about what we're actually learning. Because getting involved, getting your fingers involved and engaged, and maybe you're writing it down, it's helping us share ideas, take a concept, and build on it. So go ahead and make sure that you use the chat to deepen that sharing. So boosting the sharing occurs through the chat. But I also want to suggest to you that by having polling, you're also boosting sharing. You're helping the community see who else is in the room by looking at the answers. So just like the polling that we have done, where we've shared what apps people use. We've shared what kinds of meetings are you doing? What is your familiarity with Zoom? And then I invited you in the chat to go ahead and share. So it's boosting this opportunity for us to be able to pull together. Very critically, by using polling, for example, but even by using chat, because you can chat anonymously as well, you are giving all a voice. All the introverts that are at your meeting are having a voice. The folks that are used to talking a lot are having a voice. When we don't open all the mics, which oftentimes in a town hall or a webinar setting and those kinds of settings, you're not going to open up all the mics. The people that are used to learning by talking and having that engagement will truly appreciate the opportunity to have their voice heard, even though it's in text. And finally, the chat really allows you to spice things up. It allows you to add a dose of personality. It allows you to take something in the other space. Yes, I agree with you 100%, Jeff. That is a great point. So Jeff was talking about the fact that not only is he learning from the other chats that are going on right now, which is super cool, but he had just said he's meeting people. He's meeting folks that he hasn't seen or heard before, but because we're sharing, he's just found out some ideas about a smoothie, which I think is great. But he also found out someone said they used WhatsApp, and he reached out to them for a little bit of help on how to use WhatsApp. So that's the kind of deepening of the learning, giving people a voice, spicing it up, creating community that can occur just by having that chat open and available. So I think that one of the most important things that we can take away in number 5 is that even when you only have one person on mic, you got to have lots of voices engaged. So speaking of spicing it up, even though the chat is basically just text, you can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Here's if you're using a PC, this doesn't work apparently for the Apple keyboard, but I'm sure that if you are a Mac user, you know how to take the Alt-X, and you can go and Google and find out. But I love this. It's a very simple way of putting in some icons, and in fact, there's a whole bunch more, and you can Google emojis and get a whole additional ideas. I want to mention also that if you are in a Zoom meeting, we are in a webinar platform, but if you are in a Zoom meeting, everybody that is on video has a little reaction. It's a little icon with a reaction and a plus sign, and they can do a thumbs up or an applause, right? An opportunity for them to get reaction. So the way I've used this is I was running a meeting, and I asked everybody at one point if they agreed with the idea to give us a thumbs up. Well, it was so cool to see across the screen, all these thumbs up goes. And the nice thing is they fade away immediately. It's a short-lived one. Another time, someone jumped on the phone and gave us a really cool idea. I had tapped the person. It was kind of like gutsy for her to get up there and do this. And I said, "Hey, everybody, give her a round of applause!" And all of the claps came up. So there are lots of ways, whether you're going to use in the chat the thumbs up or thumbs down or another emoji, or if you're going to use the reactions if you can, if you're in a Zoom meeting. There are ways to give people voice without interrupting the conversation. And I think that's really important because, again, we have introverts, but we also want to keep people engaged, right? And they don't always have to have voice, or they don't always have to be typing to be engaged. You can get them doing very small things. So I think that you can build any of those in, and you can really, by doing this, deepen the learning, boost the sharing, give voice to all, spice it up. All right, let's move on to number 6, which is all about breaking the ice. So you might have noticed that at the beginning of this, I asked everybody to please type in their favorite morning beverage. We've got lots of really cool ideas, some really good smoothies, by the way, and saw lots of, in fact, I think, well, maybe it's because it's in California, but a lot more smoothies and cold drinks, but a sense of sharing something that was easy to share, isn't sensitive information, and it's just an opportunity for people to begin to get to know each other. You can do this in a webinar like we have with as many people as we have. You could do it in a medium-sized meeting if you wanted. Here are some examples. I love mind tools. You will see that if you were around me a lot, you'll see me sending people to mind tools all the time. But they have an article on virtual icebreakers. I picked up a couple of these from them, and I have a couple extra ones here that folks have given me in the past. At any time in a meeting, you can use an icebreaker like this. You know, you can ask people to put in, what are your parents' best qualities? In fact, you know what? Right now, let's do that. Go ahead. I'd love you to put in, what are your parents' best qualities? Go ahead, keep typing them. Oh, I love this. Isn't this great to celebrate our parents? It is so cool. So honesty, strength, commitment, hard work. Keep going with those best qualities. What is really cool, let me tell you a quick little story about this. So I was on a webinar not long ago, and we were asked to type in, where do you want to travel to and why? And I said that on my list was Iceland, and it really is. And I had a friend come back from it, and I'm very, very excited about putting this on our list to do. Okay. So I was reading I was kind of perusing the chat, and pops up, oh, Peggy, I just came back from Iceland a couple of months ago. I've got a great list of restaurants and a great list of you must-sees. Let me know, and I'll love to chat with you to go over it. Now, the person that put that in, I know her kind of like, well, she's a member, like you guys have your members here. You all are members of this organization. She's a member of my professional organization. I've talked with her. I've seen her. I read her blog, but we've never really connected. Now we've connected. We've made a personal connection. And I've learned something about her that makes her, well, frankly, more interesting to me, right? So breaking the ice in a webinar is a great way to build a community. In a meeting, it's a great way to get people to see a different side of folks. So I'm seeing lots of cool things about the best qualities, and I see some folks have started putting in, what was the last artist you search on your music streaming service of choice, and I have to say, very eclectic group of music. Awesome. Very cool indeed. Just one final step about the break the ice. I like to use it. At the beginning, but I want to mention to you that breaking the ice, if you are, if you're going to be entering into maybe a more difficult conversation, you can come back and say, hey, I know we had a tough decision to make. Let's break the ice, and then maybe the break the ice is a scenario that you might offer up, or an easy question about the topic that you're going to do. So you can break the ice in a couple of different ways. And then one final step, if you really want to have a little bit of fun with this, I will oftentimes do what I call a finger warm-up. So I just want to show you a finger warm-up real quickly. This is called the spider push-up. You go like this, so you can see that, and I'm going to give you sideways. Whoops, there we go, like this. So this is a finger warm-up, actually from the string teachers, right? There we go. So sometimes I'll have a little bit of fun and I'll say, everybody, okay, guys, we're going to do a little finger warm-up and then we're going to get our fingers moving. So anyway, just a little thought there. You can have some fun with that. Okay, number 7, my personal favorite, and I made you sit all the way through here to get this, and that is a dash of fun, or as I like to say, a hashtag more than learning. I really think that, first of all, let's be honest, even if you're watching this at a later time, we're in this just pressure container of COVID-19 right now. And the news is constantly about all the things that we're facing and all of the unknowns. And these poor extroverts are all being told they have to stay home. So there's just all these dynamics that are really kind of pressing in on us. But for some of us, I mean, we're in jobs that are somewhat pressure-filled, right? Right? So let's just shake things off. Let's just create a dash of fun. And in your virtual meetings, you can do this. If you think about yourself of how are we going to bring people together for a laugh, right? For a virtual hug. There's just so many things that are out there once we begin to take a look at this. So one of my go-tos is the article I'm showing right here, the best virtual team building activities for remote workers. Now, what I love about these are really about how do you get a remote team to work together. But let's say you're an independent practitioner, right, and you got your own consulting business and you're trying to bring a team together. It's your client trying to bring a team together, but you need them to work together on this project. You could do these. So even if it's not your own remote workers, maybe you're working with a nonprofit organization that has a board and you're trying to facilitate a decision process for them. Or maybe they're in the midst of a crisis and you need to help them really bond as a group to get through this challenging time, right? Again, these things might help you. So check out the Atlassian blog. It's a team under the hashtag teamwork. And you'll get some great ideas. Let me highlight a few for you. Okay, the first one is Jeopardy. So I love Jeopardy. What you're going to do is, the way they talked about this is that each group, you put people in some groups, and you put a Jeopardy card up there, just like you would, with rows of lines. They raise their hand to answer the questions. And then the team with the most points, of course, wins. So roulette uses the video breakouts it's like a 5-minute, you put people into the video breakout rooms. If you're using Zoom, this works. And you ask a smaller group of people to get to know each other, and then you bring them back to the main room, and you could do something fun. You could have them chat the one thing that surprised them, or if everybody's on mic, you could have each team you could have each group introduce their team to them. But maybe you don't do any of that. Maybe you just get them to do that, getting to know you. And then finally, the Hunger Games, which I love this. So this is really cool. Let's just say, for example, that you are working with your team, and you're all spread out, and you have a client, and this particular client really needs an innovative communications messaging for something. Take your team, put them in video breakout rooms, ask each one to come up with an idea, right? Then bring them back, and they have to sell their idea, and then the group votes on which one wins. Or maybe you don't do the vote part. But it's a Hunger Game. It's like who can come up with the best, who can get through the process the best. I've also seen this work, read about this working really well, where they wanted folks to begin to really understand people who are in silos, and maybe you have this with your company that you're working with. The company and maybe you're managing a communications team, but you have an education team or a finance team or a IT team, right? And everybody's working in their silos. So have them go in their silos and create a pitch for their department, and then bring them back together again and see which pitch is most compelling. Hunger Games. So do you see? You can really have some fun using what the technology offers. Now, I realize that I'm talking about Zoom meetings here. Some of the other platforms also allow these breakouts. But even if you couldn't go to a Zoom room breakout, you could have people open up a Google Doc, and you could say 5 people collaborate on this Google Doc, 5 people collaborate on this Google Doc, and they could be working and being able to collaborate, right? So lots of different ways to do this. couple more that I want to share with you. If you've got a little bit of budget and you can go a little bit further, I love museumhack.com. So they've got tiny virtual campfires, and they do the whole thing, right? Everybody gets a little campfire kit. It includes a little one of those little candles, some matches, some s'more ingredients. You know what those are, right? Marshmallows, chocolate, and graham crackers, and team colors. And each team gets the video link, and there's a whole process they go through it. And it's just really cool because they're telling stories, they're sharing ghost stories, for example. Anyway, really cool thing, virtual campfires. Love this one. This is the one I'm definitely going to use as soon as I can. It's called the Tea versus Coffee. What I really love about this, again, this company does it all. The package includes exotic drinks. They're all eco-friendly, fair trade, which I also think is really cool. Everybody goes to the virtual hangout, and they run a tea versus coffee ceremony, right? It's super fun. Now, I mentioned earlier, I mean, you could do, if you don't have the budget for these, you could do the coffee tasting, for example, or the wine tasting, right, that I talked about earlier. So this is a wine coach. You could hire a wine coach to do this. Give us some bottles that we know we can all get. Give us some food pairings, and then let's run the tasting. Now, the way she does this, she uses Zoom, yes, but you could use any virtual platform because she has you taste it and type stuff in, and then she talks about what she's seeing from the chat, and then she gives you some indications of how to get deeper into that taste. So she's using her video. Everybody's on video on this. She's using video. She's using the tactile of what I have right here in front of me that's not on the screen, right? It's jumping the screen into your desk, right? And she also uses the chat as an opportunity. And then they do a poll, which one do you think is the best? And then she asks you the why. So you could get, and here's a great thing, these poor retailers could go to a really fine coffee shop or a really fine tea shop and find the retailer and ask them, could you recommend it, could you lead this? Guys, it'd be great to have someone do all the work, but you could find a modified version for this. Okay, I want to talk about the gift battles, which I think are really cool. This one takes about 15 to 30 minutes. If you go into this space, you'll be able to find this, but you're using a Trello board in this case, but you can use any different kinds of things. What happens is you're asking people to put the gifts in, and then you're going ahead and having a vote. Really great way of building a team. A great way of learning how to use a Trello board, because the Trello board is just a really awesome virtual whiteboard that allows you, it's a project management tool, and there are other ones. This one is written for Trello. You could actually do this if you use Miro or Mirax or, there's a number of different ones out there. Feel free. I mean, this is completely adaptable. And I love this at the bottom. Don't be afraid to add a tiebreaker round if needed. So it's really about creating, remember, people love to compete, so it's creating the fun around the competition. Okay, two more things that I want to give you because these are really kind of low key. So CASAE, over there at your state, CASAE is the State Society for Association Execs. They're doing a series of couch chats. Now, this one was April 1st when they launched it. They're still doing them. They're evolving them now because they have to go to their virtual conference, and they're doing some really super cool things. So go to the CASAE site to learn more. What I really love about this, it's like just come, be in your comfies, bring the questions. They're only going to allow 20 people. They only allow 20 people because they wanted all people to be on the screen at the same time. So really cool, just easy, low-key kinds of community building. Great for a volunteer team, but also great for your work team because many of you said you're doing business meetings. I love the AIA, that's the Architects Institute, Mississippi chapter. They're doing this in lieu of lunch. Okay, so they started Wednesdays at noon. What I love about this is that you're supposed to order in lunch, and then you take the logo of the company and you share it. And so you'll notice homework, grab your takeout from your closest locally owned restaurant. Your homework is to get a screenshot for our digital outlets, and then they're showing them during the thing. So they're promoting local businesses while they're having this really fun and engaging conversation. Now I want you to look a little bit at the copy, because this is the dash of fun precisely at halfway bark each week. We invite you to a mid-dose of optimism as we break bread together virtually. And then check it out. Dress quarantine casual. That's encouraged. Don't you just love it? So we need to lighten things up. We need to have some fun. And we need to say to our teams, volunteer, employees, staff, clients, we need to say to them, relax, take a moment here, breathe. And the more we do this, the more productive our meetings are. So, more than learning, make sure you put the fun in. So a couple of real quick things I just want to run through as we get to the end of the hour here and wrap ourselves up. I love this. It's from a university, information technology. It was written a while back, but what I just sort of, I love this. I was like, we should just add this to our slide decks. But anyway, the 8 do's of video conferencing etiquette, the 7 don'ts. I love, now, do dress appropriately. Appropriate for you. What I loved about the last slide I just showed you is they said quarantine casual. So part of this is also sort of setting the expectations. You'll notice that they say be yourself and have fun, which I love. So maintain eye contact. So that's an important thing. I don't know if you've noticed. My eyes are looking at the screens. They're looking at the documentation I have. But the disconcerting thing about being on a virtual meeting is that in order for everybody to think that you're talking to them, you have to look at your camera. But how can you look at people's faces? So let me give you a little tip. So take your videos. Now, in this particular case, I can't see you, but if I was in a meeting, I could see all my videos. Take the videos and line them up at the top of your screen, if that's where your camera is. Put them down if it's at the bottom of the screen, so that you are having that sense of watching and seeing the faces while you're still directing your eyes to the camera. Okay. I do love under the don'ts, the don't wear noisy jewelry. I was on a meeting, and this woman had earrings on that were beautiful. Love them. They caught my eye, and they were making a crazy sound. So I think that's really a valuable thing for us to know. Okay. Finally, I just want to recap and say to you, new connections is really my mantra. I'm saying to myself and to my volunteer teams and to my clients, now is our opportunity. Now is our opportunity to find new ways to make connections. I feel like the most important thing I ask folks to be on video. If it's a webinar, that's why I'm on video. If it was a meeting, be on video. Using the virtual backgrounds, using the blurring techniques, using the fun, all of us in sports shirts will help people feel more comfortable. In Zoom, you can actually take your video and you can actually put the focus on speakers and not even see you. You can hide from your view. You can hide your video if seeing you is distracting, seeing yourself is distracting or unnerving. If we're going to make new connections, we've got to think about the virtual platform. So it's not meeting as usual, mix it up, refocus. We talked about that. My sense is reprioritize about how we're acting now, begin to shuffle things around, And my very favorite is Forever Beta. It's a new world. It's a new technology for some of us. It's going to be a new technology for all of us because the iterative updates are going to constantly keep us on our toes. Relax. It's okay. It's Forever Beta. We're good. All right. So where can you go from here? Here's a list of resources. Find what you like. Share with each other ones that you find that are better or your takeaways from any of these. We'll get these links out to you, the slides, so you'll be able to see it. I think that there's loads and loads of resources out there. Find the ones. Don't try to do everything. Find the ones that will make a difference. So I see a couple of questions. A person's asking about Zoom and the issues around the security. So go to the Zoom website. They have a COVID-19 update. You will see there that they have met and exceeded every concern that has come. By exceeded, I mean solved it and gone beyond that. They made some changes to the platform, to the security protocols. For example, one of the things was you used to be able to focus on to make sure people were staying on track with you. They were staying focused. Found that was all a gateway for a scammer, so they got rid of it. They are proactively as well as being where they need to be reactively connected. I have a friend who works for Zoom. They are hiring programmers at a rapid pace so they can make sure the platform is safe as possible. I don't worry about it. I know that there are going to be some worries about it, which leads us to Zoom's not the only game in town. I think you can feel confident about the security protocols that Zoom now has. They've done a lot of stuff. But if you're really worried about if it's an issue, some government agencies are not allowing their people to be on it. And there's a workaround for that, but let me just mention, there's Blue Jeans, there's GoToWebinar, there's dozens of them. Find one that feels most comfortable to you. Okay, a workaround. If someone can't get it on because they've got a protocol at their biz, tell them to download the app on their smartphone. They can join the meeting on their phone, which will work fine, or maybe they can log in from another computer. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's about as perfect as other platforms. So check out other options, but know that you've got that secure. So let's see. I've got another question here, and someone wanted to know about let me see as I'm reading it. We're curious about the recordings and the chats. Okay, so a couple of things. You can record. Whoever hosts the meeting can hit the record button. Best practice would be particularly for a meeting. Everybody knows a webinar is going to be recorded, but for a meeting would be for you to say, this meeting is being recorded. Give people the heads up. Do make sure that people know that this recording will be, how it will be shared, be open and be available to that. You can save the recording in Zoom. You can save the chat in Zoom. So what we've done with the chat is we've saved it. In some cases, we've just shared it out as is. In other cases, we've curated it and cleaned it up if it's a webinar. So you have both of those options. But I think the issue really was about security, privacy, permissions. So if it's a meeting, in all cases, saying it's, we're going to save the chat, we're going to record this is best practice, but certainly if it's a private meeting, you want to go ahead and say or do that. All right, guys, we have come to a time where we need to close things up, and before we do, one more opportunity for chat. What will you try next? Learning doesn't work if you sit in front of this computer and you listen and then you don't take anything away. Taking something away starts with pledging that you will do something. So what will you try next? Let's get that chat warmed up, and let's go ahead and start talking about what you will do next. And as you do that, I just want to put my information back up again. Peggy Hoffman, I'm on the other coast, super excited to have been here with you, reaching across the country to have a conversation on banning our boring meetings and creating engagement. I can be connected with on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I also pick up the phone, so there's the old-fashioned phone and, of course, email. So it's Peggy with Mariner Management. It has been a pure delight. Keep that chat coming in. I'm seeing lots of good things. Adding fun, adding fun, adding fun. Absolutely. High five on the adding fun. Gonna help people do the video backgrounds. Team, yes, a number of people talking about the icebreakers and the team building. All right, guys, it has been awesome being here with you. I'm going to let you go, get into your full day. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, stop having boring meetings. Have fun.